question, an injury question, and it was I forgot who it was. It was on Instagram, but they asked me about an orbital fracture, or facial fracture. So they sustained a facial fracture, and they're kind of having a mental block, having a hard time with kind of getting back on the mats, feeling confident. So you had an injury, wasn't exactly a facial fracture. You did have something going on. If you can kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I love this
a little mic,
yeah. So I had my nose broken here. So not the soft cartilagey part, but the actual bony part at the very top, the ridge. It was broken in 3 places. So what happened was I shot him for a takedown. One of our guys was getting ready for an MMA fight. I think that's kind of what was happening. And when I shot in, he kneed me. Like instead of like sprawling, you know, like you're supposed to when you're grappling, he kneed me in the nose, and it broke in 3 places. You know, my nose was on the other side of my face. Blood was everywhere. It was pretty gnarly. Didn't really hurt all that bad. It was just like, damn, this sucks. And then they had to do surgery. I thought originally maybe they could just snap it back in place, but because it was broken in the bone part, they actually had to like essentially put it back together and then stuff it full of like this dissolvable gauze. And then from there, I had to take 6 weeks off completely from anything that had like high pressure exercise. So anything, even lifting heavy, like where like the pressure in my nose, my face got a lot, I couldn't do that. And then when I came back from the 6 weeks, the doctor was like, look, you got to be careful because that bone is still setting and getting like formed. And he even asked me, he said, hey man, he's like, so are you still going to keep doing this jiu-jitsu stuff?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, doc, this is what I do for a living. This is my job. So yeah. And I remember him looking at me going, huh. Okay. And then, you know, he goes back to cleaning the gauze out and stuff like that. But so then I came back, and again, that was pretty scary because I shot in, and I think something that's really interesting for people to keep in mind is that like when you do something like this where you've got injured, think about how many times you've done it and you never did get injured. Because what happens is we do something for so long and then we do it once, something goes wrong, and then that ends up shaping our feelings about it. So when I come back to the takedown, I'm super nervous because I'm afraid of the knee. No one ever kneed me except for that one time.
Right. It
happened one time out of thousands of other times, right? And so I had to remind myself about that. And then so what I did when I was rolling, when I came back to it, I would roll with people that I was very specific on who I rolled with in the beginning because I needed to roll with people that weren't going to accidentally elbow me and break my nose or anything like that. And we started off a lot like lighter drilling, things like that. And then we worked our way up over the course of some weeks to rolling with these people. And then when I started doing takedowns, it was drilling first because I wanted to kind of get comfortable drilling again to where the movements felt crisp and the movements felt secure and good. And then afterwards, I eventually did takedowns with people I was, comfortable with going for takedowns, people that I knew had good movement, and then sort of branched out from there. But the key was sort of like drilling first, getting back into the flow of things, rolling with people, at a light pace that I felt comfortable with, then picking up the pace with those people, and then branching out from there.
Mm-hmm. Was there one specific thing you found most difficult as far as coming back?
When I came back?
Yeah.
Yeah, shooting. So like when I was shooting, it was like, because that's what happened, right? I was so nervous about that nose because again, in my mind, I'm thinking, man, the doctor said, you got to be careful, you don't re-break it or whatever. And so I'm thinking I'm going to re-break it. And I'm sure a lot of you guys with injuries you have, right? Like maybe you have a knee. I remember this with my meniscus. I remember when I came back from a meniscus tear, I was like, oh my God. The movement that I did when it got hurt, I was scared to do that movement. It was just a lunge. You know what I mean? So there's all these things where, again, I have to desensitize myself to the movement again, right, so that I feel comfortable with it. And so shooting when I was coming back was nerve-wracking because, I'm just thinking I'm going to get a catch a knee, and then all of a sudden I'm back on the doctor's table getting operated on again.
Yeah, a lot of like smart gradual progression, which is what, you kind of want to slowly increase the variables. I like to say that you slowly want to just like, all right, now I'm drilling, I'm doing these positions. Maybe there's no chance of me getting hit in the head. Then progress to people you trust, faster speed, then a little more different positions, and going back to what you're doing. Yeah, that's a great point. How long do you think it took you to finally feel like it wasn't something you thought about on the mats?
About 6 months. 6 months. Because again, we use our heads so much in jiu-jitsu, so you're always using your head and and especially me, I'm a very head forward kind of grappler, button heads and stuff. Yep. And so it was very much a thing where about 6 months later is when it really started to feel more secure. And like I didn't feel like there was something wrong.
Yeah. That's cool. It was very sucked to have you off the mats, but like it seems like it's never happened. So
well, and also too, I was never really off the mats. So like
you're teaching.
So I was teaching because like I broke my nose, took a week off, came back, was teaching, and then next week surgery happened. took the rest that week off, came back next week, was teaching. You know what I mean? Because again, even when I was injured when I was younger, if I had some sort of injury, I would always come on the mats and step on the mats and just be around, just because I like being around.
That's a great point. Like if you're a white belt or you're a blue belt, you're injured, you want to kind of stay involved in some way, whether it's just kind of watching class, maybe helping some of the younger kids, like maybe kids class, whatever it is. I think just being in the area, being in the space is very helpful and gives you that connection.
Yeah, and I would say that if you can't, for some reason, being in the space for whatever reason, do something to take the place of that routine. So let's say if you can't do jiu-jitsu, you can go for like a walk or a run or do some biking or something to like keep you active. Because I think what typically happens, I've seen this happen so many times with students, is they get injured and the thing that they want to do, this gets taken away. And instead of saying, what they do is they say, I can't do this, instead of saying, well, what can I do? Yeah. Right, and so they like, so why can't you can go for a walk, you can go for a run, you can go for a jog, you can ride your bike, you can lift some weights and some, you can do something. But instead of doing that, they get depressed because they can't do that thing, and it leads to them, eating poorly, not working out. And then when they come back, once everything is healed, then they're in this deficit where now they're overweight again, or they're, not overweight again, but they're overweight, they're out of shape, they haven't trained, they're coming back, and now they've got this huge deficit to work up, opposed to if you say, man, I've been moving around, I've been active the whole time, maybe I haven't been doing jiu-jitsu, but I've been active, I'm in good shape. So when you come back, it's not going to be such a hard slog back to, being where you were when you left.
No, it's great points. Chewy?
I ended up taking it from you.
No, it's okay. You're like a terrible interviewee.
You didn't we only have one. So like when I was like going to hand it back to you, you like just
well, I knew you were going to take over because that's what you do all the time. You just take over the conversation. If you guys didn't realize what it's the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, but this is the Jiu-Jitsu Therapist YouTube channel. Chewy.
Do you want to you want to thumb the video again?
No, just know your role.
And shut your damn mouth. If you smell, remember that?
I do. Not that version that you just renditioned.
It wasn't the best.
It's terrible. All right, I'm gonna introduce this bad boy.
Okay.
You don't get to run this piece.
Right.
It's my channel.
That's right.
It's my show. So